We're officially streaming. I'm just going to announce something real quick.
Before I call the order.
So you're accommodating. Yeah. Hi, everybody. How are you guys? I'm Christy. I'm the manager. I'm going to go over a couple of things real quick because we're streaming live tonight for the first time for Planning Commission. It's going to be important that everybody talks into the mics. You don't have to be right up on it, but if you are just, within a good distance and you propel your voice, that would be fine. Up here, anyone who's going to speak, you may come up here to the mic. Otherwise, there are handheld mics as well. So if Josh, you're presenting, for instance, and Charlie, you might say something, then maybe you should have a mic. Okay, very good. Otherwise, we're going to do this, and we're streaming now.
All right, we're going to call into order the November 18th meeting of the East Manchester Township Planning Commission. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on September 23rd. The meeting minutes were distributed. Anybody not have a chance to read over them? Is there anything that needs to be corrected or any other input?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as distributed. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise? Ayes have it. The next item up on the agenda for this evening is a rezoning for the Bayshore and Kohler Inc. parcel 26000 MI1 or 01200. That's just a lot of zeros. But there is a specific parcel there, and you'll get that in the minutes, correct? And then this is for an industrial to commercial district rezoning request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andy Harold. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Bayshore and Kohler. As a quick housekeeping note, I would just like to put on the record that I'm partners with Andy Miller, who is, of course, the solicitor for East Manchester Township. We do have a signed waiver of conflict. I don't envision any sort of a conflict arising, and neither did Solicitor Miller. So we do have that signed waiver. I just wanted to put that on the record for this evening. I'm here with Rick Schaffner from Bayshore and Kohler. I'm going to let him, if it's okay with the board, stay where he is, and I'll kind of present from here. Okay.
Fine. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Christy, what do I have to do to?
I think you just hold it in until it comes on.
Yeah. All right. As the chairman said, this is in reference to parcel ID 26-000-MI-0120.X0-00000. What we're asking the Planning Commission to issue what we would like is a favorable recommendation is to rezone a portion of the industrial or a property in the industrial zone to commercial. This is a property which is contiguous to the existing Bayshore and Kohler operation. And I apologize, does everybody have a copy of the written application that we presented to the board? If not, I have copies for the board.
If I could have a copy.
Sure, of course.
That looks like what we have here. Yeah. We should all have those. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Again, this is a contiguous piece of property to the existing Bayshore and Kohler operation. The property that we're requesting to have rezoned is about 3.4 acres. As you can see there on the aerial view, it abuts up against an existing parking lot that's part of the Bayshore and Kohler operation. Bayshore and Kohler is, of course, bisected by George Street. I'm sure, is anybody not familiar with the there you go. Is everybody pretty familiar with this area? Okay. So with that, I would just like to introduce Mr. Schaffner. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Schaffner. Mr. Schaffner, can you just tell the Planning Commission who you are and what your position is?
Rick Schaffner's my name. One of my duties is president of the company.
What is, as president of the company, first of all, how long have you been president of the company?
15 years.
Why are you, could you just tell the planning commission in your own words why you're asking to have this property rezoned?
Well, it's industrial right now, and we had a electrical charging station we were required to construct across the street, like right up against this industrial section, and we couldn't put it there because of the zoning. So it's taking up about 10 spaces, and we're also in the process of adding an additional building to our parts operation, which is also going to take up spaces. We figure around 14, maybe 16. So it's going to be a little tight, and it's mainly going to be for employee parking.
So as employee parking, is there going to be any sort of intensive light or anything like that?
No, we won't need any more lighting.
Okay. Do you envision any sort of congestion issues or anything like that associated with this?
It shouldn't be. I mean, our people pull in and out of a space once a day, and you know they're there for the full day. So it'd just be you know, pulling out of a different area.
Okay. At this point, I'll basically open it up to the planning commission if they have any questions for Mr. Schaffner. After that, I would like to just offer a couple of thoughts, but do the commission members have any questions for Mr. Schaffner?
What's the acreage involved?
Well, the acreage that we're going to, or that we're requesting is 3.4, but we're not going to blacktop that whole area. It's going to be about a 30 to 50 foot strip, and the full length of where the parking is now. So that's around 270 feet.
How many cars do you have anticipated?
Now it'll hold 30.
It will be accessed through your parking lot?
Yes.
So we know additional access drives?
No, it won't go the whole way to Forge Hill Road. It'll be a grass strip there now.
So employees will pull into the existing parking lot from there.
Yep.
Into the employee parking lot.
Yes, sir.
He will have to come in for a land development plan, and it sounds like since you'd be crossing the lot line there, you probably have to do a reverse subdivision.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So he would come before you again.
Yeah, there'll be no buildings. We're not requesting anything but the parking, you know, some more blacktop.
Yeah, this is just to get the ability to have it for that use again. As your manager said, we'll be back here before you all for a land development plan.
I'm just curious, not knowledgeable on this, could you not put a parking lot on an industrial zoned area?
No, this is a retail, or I'm sorry, retail sales for cars, and that's not permitted in the industrial zoning district, but it is permitted in the commercial district.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that's actually a great segue to some of the points that I wanted to make. The reality is that there is some medium density residential zoning not too far off from here. The reality is that the proposed use is a far less obtrusive or intensive use than what would be permitted if it were to remain industrial. So frankly, to permit this to be rezoned and allow Mr. Schaffner to put in this parking lot, again, it's going to protect some of the areas from far more intensive uses, which would be permitted if it were to remain industrial, which is one of the reasons, or really the primary reason why we believe that this is an appropriate request.
Does the property get reappraised based on the change of the zoning?
There would certainly be a reassessment after the reverse subdivision.
And I'm assuming the value probably goes down with commercial versus industrial.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
approve it. You know, that's kind of I don't know what that would be.
Well, right, I mean, right now, it's
Yeah.
obviously vacant, then it'll be improved, so there's a potential for sort of a flip-flop in the, you know,
Makes sense.
offsetting, if you will.
Any other questions down at that? Mike, you got anything? Any other public comment? All right. I mean, this is just me talking, but I agree with your final point there. In a time right now where there's a lot of contention with a lot of other things, something going from industrial to taking off a small sliver of that going to commercial, protecting residents nearby, I can't imagine that's not something that is pleasing to a lot of people. That's my 2 cents worth on it, but
I agree with that.
at this point, if nobody has any other further questions, I'll entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend the approval of the zoning change.
I'll motion to recommend the change.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed likewise? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
everybody's time.
Next item up on the agenda tonight is a preliminary plan for the Trade Center 83 East. This is a preliminary subdivision and land development plan. There are some waivers being requested with this plan. Section 20834A, which is a plan size waiver. Section 20844F, which is a slope and grading waiver. 20846B1, which is street widening, and that's only a partial. 20846J, which is a waiver for private driveways serving multiple properties. 20847, which is curbs and sidewalks, and like 20846B1, that's only a partial waiver, as is also a partial waiver, the final one, which is 20864, underground utility lines. Whichever one of you gentlemen representing this plan would like to start, feel free.
Good evening. My name is Chris Fensel. I'm Vice President of Development for Hillwood, who represents the applicant for the preliminary subdivision and land development plan before you. We appeared at the Planning Commission in September. We reviewed the plan in detail as well as addressed several comments that the staff and the consulting engineers had made to the plan. Since then, we received some additional comments that we again have addressed, and we're here to talk that through with the Planning Commission this evening. With me tonight, I have Josh Hoffman with Pannoni Associates, a civil engineer, Charlie Sir with Stevens and Lee, our land use attorney, and John, excuse me, and John Seitz with TRG, our traffic consultant. So I'll turn it over to Josh, and he can address some of the technical comments that we received, and as well as we have one additional waiver to add to the list this evening.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening. Josh Hoffman with Pannoni. Here before you this evening for this preliminary subdivision land development plan for Trade Center 83 East. Since Chris mentioned the additional waiver, earlier this afternoon I sent Kate an email with the waiver request form. It's in response to a comment that's in Layman's September 9th, 2025 letter. It's actually referencing comment number, let's see here. It's comment number 5 in his letter. It speaks to whether or not we need to you can prepare a sketch plan of a street for residual properties or provide basically a waiver with a note on the plan, and that's what we've agreed to do. So as part of our waiver request, we're providing a note on the subdivision plan that refers to, that occurring when there's time of development on one of those two residual lots, which are lot 4 and 5 in this case. So what I sent Kate earlier today was this application that you see on the screen. The section is 208-31.A 2A21, and it's referred to on the plan as a sketch for prospective street layout for residual tracts shown on the plan. So we've added that waiver to our cover sheet on the plan. We've provided this application to the township, and we've also provided a note on the subdivision plan itself. It's note number 4. And I sent those 2 plan sheets to Kate earlier today, so they're in the township's possession now. But we've added it on the cover sheet and then added the note to be reviewed to address item number 5 on Layman's letter.
So you did add general note 4, and under summary of waivers, you have the 7th waiver that you just
That's correct.
mentioned is on the ones you submitted this afternoon.
Yep, you mentioned the first 6, and then we added the 7th. So yes, that's exactly right. Since then, so we've requested the additional waiver. We also resubmitted the plan. It was actually the prior month, but we resubmitted it on October 20th, 2025, and we responded to Layman's, the September 9th, 2025 letter. We responded to those comments. Obviously, this new information for comment number 5 changes what the response was, but we did respond to all the remaining comments from his letter. Before that time, we had actually responded back in August when we were here for the September meeting. We responded to all the county planning commission comments, and I know we went through in pretty good length in that meeting as to outstanding comments versus what we've already addressed. So we'd certainly be happy to go through whichever one of those comment letters we need to. We did receive an additional, an updated stormwater management review letter from your engineer, Byron. I guess it was last week, actually, and there's only a couple items that remain on that, which I know you guys just look at that as one stormwater comment, but we've made good lengths in terms of the stormwater design, the plan itself, and then also the outside agencies. We have a Chapter 105 permit for wetland impacts. We have administrative completeness for that process, so now we just have to wait for any kind of technical comments that we receive. The NPDS permit has been submitted. We've had review letters from the Conservation District. We have a couple of comments to address in that regard, but that's not uncommon for any of these projects. We understand that's a lengthy process to get through. So all things considered, the plan itself, I don't see much of anything changing on the layout of this plan. We've met with Chief Stevens multiple times. I know he's reviewed the plan. We've addressed his comments at this point with access and just getting around, particularly around building 2, the smaller building there. We've addressed his concerns with that building. In addition to, we have a gated emergency access off of Manchester Street. So I think with that, that's kind of the update of where we stand in terms of we just have outside agency things to deal with. And like I said, I'd be happy to go through any of the comments. There was one request at the last meeting we were at, and it's included in this set. We added 2 additional cross sections to our landscaping plan. We had 3 initially. We added 2 more. Talking to the mic here. So building 3, the one at the upper portion of the site there, we added a 4th cross section from the building directly to the west. Is what we were asked to do at the last meeting. So that's cross section number 4. It's going to be shown in the full set of plans. And cross section number 5 would be from that building heading about northeast, call it, directly across Manchester Street. There's a residence right there. So we pulled in a site cross section from that facility or from that house across onto our site. So there are 2 additional sections that we added. It wasn't a comment, but it was something that came up during the meeting 2 months ago that we were here. So those are now reflected on the plan. I think, short of just pulling them up and looking at them, or if you guys have all seen them, they were part of that submission that we made in October. It was October 20th when we resubmitted. It was all part of that set, so.
It's gonna be hard to see up there, but do you know what page it is?
Yes, I do. It's right after the profile, so if you go, it's probably gonna be like LA, you know, scroll down, there's gonna be, keep going, or go up a little bit.
It's glitching. Doesn't like big plans.
Right before the LP at 9.0, there should be all the landscaping.
With the LL 8.8.
8.1 or 8.8?
Yeah, it's probably one of those last 3 or 4. Okay, so those are the sections themselves. Go to like 8 point, maybe 6. Okay, 8.7 will be the plan that shows the actual sections. So, do you have your green pointer?
I think so. Let's just make sure to get the party one. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Oh, the blinking.
There's the one that disperses.
So, on section, or at this location here, if you can kind of see where I'm pointing there, that's section 4 that we've added to the plan, and then section 5 is this section right here. Both coming from building number 3. So the other three that we had previously already on the plan, there was one down here in this location, coming from building number 1 in this direction. And then we had another one.
Don't show that in your eyes, Josh.
It's on the ceiling.
It's not working.
Yeah, kinda.
Sorry.
It's bouncing off the,
Yeah.
and hit, because it's hitting the ceiling, it's on, it's just.
Let's see, it works on my computer.
I know
It's black.
we looked at the other 3, the
See, it
prior
disappears up there.
meeting, but section 4 and 5, coming from the corner of building 3, and then from the other corner of building 3, headed to the northeast. Those are what are reflected on, I think it was 2 sheets from where you were at there, if you want to look at the actual sections themselves. It should be, I think it's 2 sheets away, maybe.
Like,
8.9, I think, yeah.
No.
sorry, guys.
It's all right.
Painful.
It's probably 150,000 kilobytes or something like that. It's a large file.
Did I go too far?
Yeah.
There you go.
Huh?
8.8. 8.8 will be.
That'll be your cross sections. Or yeah.
So the one in the middle of the page at the top,
This one?
that one there, that's one of the new ones that were added. I think that's number 5. I can't read it from here myself, but I'm pretty sure that's number 5.
So this is a person.
So that's a person that's standing down there. Keep in mind, these are an exaggerated scale. That's someone that's standing, you know, we actually had to, oh no, that's the other one. I'm sorry, that's number 5. That would be the residence. So what you're looking at there is, I mean, obviously, clearly you can see the very top of the building, but you can't see the circulation road or vehicles or the actual operation because of the vegetation that's planted on top of the retaining wall and the site where we have it shown there.
Are you talking about this one?
No, I'm sorry, the one to the right of that,
Just
the one to the right.
upper, yeah.
So if you look at the line of sight, you're looking at the top of the building with following that dashed line. But if you look at where the site is and the retaining wall, you have the trees that are right there. You can't see any of the operation itself. What you'll see is the top of the building.
No lighted wall packs towards the top of the building?
There's nothing I think on the end of the building there, we're not, we can flip back to the site plan, but the wall packs would be at a lower height, like probably 25 feet.
Okay.
Versus the building, which is probably up at, what, Chris, maybe 45 feet, 48 feet, something like that?
We would look at that east side,
Mhm.
relative to lighting and probably eliminate any wall packs, except for, emergency access, or just to light the drive aisle, but, without any parking along there, I don't think.
Right.
One more time for me, where's this at again?
So that is, if you were looking at our building 3, you're kind of looking northeast directly across Manchester Street. There's a residence that's down kind of in the wooded area right there.
Over here. Or
Yeah,
down here.
yes, that's correct. See, it's that line right there that you're
Okay.
kind of pointing at. So
Yeah.
you're looking through, you can see how we have vegetation planted.
Yeah.
So we don't really, there's no parking or anything like that. There's a circulation road that goes around the building to the rear. But those trees are clearly, blocking the view of that, because those are sitting up higher than the driveway itself. So you can see
It
top
should,
of,
it should even be blocking some of that before the 5-year
yeah,
growth of the.
that's correct, because it's sitting on, picture you're sitting down low, we have a retaining wall and it's sitting up there, and then the trees are on top of that. We moved the trees to the top of the, up onto the site so that you can screen it much easier.
And the wall packs aren't that high, right?
The wall packs are probably shown at 20, I think they're 25 feet is a pretty common,
That's much higher, right?
But just looking at the plan, we would likely have the lighting on the north and south sides of the building.
right.
And we, just based on where the loading dock doors are, that lighting is probably 100 feet from the corner of the building, so quite a distance from the actual property line. Now, on that sectional view, what is the distance between the person and the building?
That is a good question. It's, I have to look at the stationing. That's probably, it's hundreds of feet. If you flip back to we should have the stationing on the section itself.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, so like at the bottom of that cross section, it should be like, from 0 to, what's the number on the far right there? 600. So 600 feet to the face of the building from the house.
So that's a pretty good distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking last time, it was like over a football field and a half, closer to 2 football fields.
Yeah, and that's probably the closest, residence. So, and even so, the truck court actually sits down another 4 feet below, what you're looking at on that section. So the trucks and the actual, operation in the rear of the building would even sit 4 feet lower than what the driveway and what the building is there. So that was section number 5 that you're pointing to, and then if you go just below to the right there, that's section 4 that was added. That's where you're looking toward the west. Kind of what you're looking at there is you see the building on the far right-hand side, right by the title of the plan. That's the building. So as you head towards the west, you can see, we have, our site is cut down into the existing grade. So what you have is you basically have a natural berm that you're creating right at the property line, and then we're showing the tree plantings, the buffer plantings along the property line. So really, if you're looking at someone standing, and that one's even further away. That one's probably 1,000 feet away. I know we broke up the 2 profiles there so it could fit on the sheet, but
Which trees are these?
those are on the perimeter of the property. So if you look towards the DHL site, they're up on top of the hill along that property line.
Gotcha.
So what you have, and that's a pretty typical, if you're looking in that direction in a couple different views. We just picked the view that went toward a residence, so it's gonna be like that all along that property line. But nevertheless, you're looking at that section, you really are looking through the trees at the very top of the tree, and you can probably see just barely the top of the building with what you're looking at. Now, we do anticipate, those are like a 5-year growth, what those trees are reflecting right there. But you're definitely looking above where any lighting or the actual operation of the site is, in elevation terms, because the truck's probably 14 to 15 feet, I guess it is, in terms of height, and that actually is sitting lower than what the building is anyway, in terms of the height of the building, so. So those were the 2 that were asked to be added, and that's what we've provided on the plan from the last meeting we were here.
What I'll probably have you do is I'm in response to your October 20th letter. Or I have, and that's your response to several of these other letters. I have you over that in a minute. I wanted to just touch base with Byron because we did do stormwater under separate. You're satisfied with what he described as far as that's coming along
Yes,
without too much incident?
Most of my outstanding items are erosion control and stormwater maintenance fund fee and things like that. The only one that I mention is at the request of the Public Works Director and from my review and site review, that there's an existing pipe on is that Muscle Run, I guess that is, or Hart, which is on the stream that's.
Yeah, there's
right
2.
Yeah, there's 2 pipes.
There's 2 different pipes.
The main pipe out there, we've had several instances of flooding and this goes under Manchester Street. Public Works Director has issues with that existing pipe and has asked that to be replaced, and that's still on my open items for discussion.
Okay.
So,
The rest of
again,
it's kind of, you know, vanilla
there's
housekeeping.
no other than that, there's no plan changes. I mean, it's all outstanding erosion, like I said, erosion control permits, post surety, stormwater maintenance fund, et cetera, like that. So that was our only item for stormwater for discussion.
Yeah, I think the one, and to your letter and reading that the other day, the one about the emergency access, we've met with the chief where you had about the 10% slope and everything. We're good on that, one, so.
Yeah, that was a minor, to me, it was a minor comment. I just wanted to look at it a little closer on myself, but again,
Only thing out of the ordinary is a discussion, public works officer and replacing or the potential replacing of
Right.
that. Okay.
So the only thing I would say about the culvert, I did a little bit of investigation on that, a little bit of analysis and follow-up since we spoke last week even. And with the design of our site, we're actually reducing the flow to that culvert by about 94 CFS in a 50-year storm event. So we're significantly reducing it from what is there today because we have to manage stormwater management throughout the site. So we have multiple basins that discharge into the stream that get into that culvert that he's referencing. But in a 50-year storm event, we're reducing that by about 94 CFS, and that's pretty significant. I think we're running some additional numbers there as to look at what the actual the flow rate is today, like based on the watershed. I think it's about 300-acre watershed or something like that. So it's probably, if I had to make an assumption, it's probably in the mid 300s in terms of a flow that gets to that. So in a 50-year storm event, that's, we're reducing that by 90 some CFS with our design in itself. So.
Yeah, but my concern still in the public works, yes, you might be reducing the flows. However, if the road's overtopping during an existing 50-year storm, now's the time to take care of this pipe and make sure that's not happening and things like that. So if you can provide me with a calculation for a 50-year storm event, what's getting there and showing me that it's not overtopping, and that based on decreasing the flows, I can justify removing the comment. However, if it's still overtopping with the 50-year storm, then I think the pipe should be adequately increased to a size that could adequately pass that storm.
So you'll have that homework for him.
Yeah, it's not a hard. That's a pretty minor calculation.
Yeah, right. So that's the stormwater, which again we don't normally go over that, but I just wanted to check with Byron on where he stood on that issue. And then Josh, if you wanted to just go over you can go over your own letter and start with the comments or the response to the Gordon L. Brown comment letter dated September 9th.
Sure, thank you. Based on number one, there's the one zoning comment. I know we've responded to that comment, Byron. I don't know. I mean, typically it's, has it been addressed? I mean, I think we've agreed that we're willing to work with, positioning those rooftop mounted units, to keep them as far away from the residents as we can. I mean, I think we've provided, we have a note on the plan that speaks to that. So in our opinion, number one has been addressed, if you would agree.
Yeah, I think most of that will be taken care of with the building permit application.
Was this something that we wanted like on the declaration? Can't remember right now.
I'm sorry, I thought we wanted it on the.
Yeah, number one, with the rooftop mounted units.
Drawing.
I think it
What's
came up
that?
in
They have
Andy's
notes
letter too.
referring
Yeah.
to How can you even enforce that, though?
But that you will.
It's best you can. Thank you.
And that's what I said, when they apply for the building permit application, I think we with Commonwealth codes, that we review that as far as much compliance as we can.
Yeah.
So it's part of that ultimately.
I think comes to a point where you can say put everything on the one side, but it's not economical feasible for them to So why are
Right,
we
but if they
doing this
can,
in land
if they can
development?
shift it as far away as they can, then that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, most of these places use Cambridge units, which have to be placed throughout the building. So unless you're gonna duct them or something different, it's gonna be hard to put them all on one side. Because
Right.
typically they use Cambridge units and just, for heating.
And I think you mentioned that in your response too, that you're gonna be limited by some design. We just want it to be among the strongest of considerations where it can be feasibly accomplished. And there's a note, they will have a note on that.
We're willing to work with the language, with the solicitor when we get to the development agreement. And I think we addressed it in our previous project, so we understand. And I think the note addresses it. It has to be operational and offer efficiencies and all that good stuff, so.
So if we're in agreement, I think that one's been addressed. Number 2 just refers to Byron's stormwater letter, which I would agree, probably all but one item there is administrative at this point.
Right.
But it still remains open. Item number 3A about the borough signature blocks. I mean, we've responded to that one a few times now, so I don't know what the answer is there, but that's our position. We're not modifying the property within the borough. All the remaining property within the borough is residual. So there shouldn't be a need for them to approve or sign this plan.
We agree with that. I spoke
Okay.
to Attorney Miller.
Okay.
So, yeah, when it comes to I was gonna ask you what Gordon Brown's interest in that recurring note is.
Yeah, Lehman and I discussed that before he left for vacation, but, because there was, again, we'll defer to what Attorney Miller has to say on this, but because there's 2 parcels on that side, we still felt that it needed the signature. But we'll defer to if you talked with Attorney Miller.
I think originally we thought, we were in with some of the staff meetings, and I think he had thought we were adjusting a property line within the borough, but it actually is remaining the way that it is today, so we're not actually doing anything. So I think that maybe is the
But
original.
there's 2, but you are combining lots. On that side, you're combining and making that one lot?
No,
No.
so they remain, everything within the borough remains as is today. Like, we're taking portions of those 2 lots and combining them with the properties, but that's all within East Manchester Township,
Okay.
so.
Well, again, if Attorney Miller's fine with that, then.
He had a conversation with Charlie.
Yeah, his concern was recording, make sure the recorder, we will work with the recorder and assessment. You have split plans on 2 municipalities, sometimes the recorder is challenging to work with. He's had that experience, I have also.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk them through that. The key is that there's no development happening within the borough.
I would consider that satisfied then.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. 3B, owner signatures, and we acknowledge that, and I believe we'll have, it's our intent to have a signed version of the plan, before we get to the supervisors, absolutely. In addition to obviously when it would get recorded. That was 3B, which remains open, so 3C is, we had added that waiver, so that waiver was one of the ones that were added to the cover sheet as part of the last response. So that is one of the 7 that are already on there. So that one should be addressed. 3D is regarding the traffic study. So since we had submitted this back on October 20th, the traffic study has been submitted to the township. I forget the exact date, but we've.
31st.
Okay, and then we received an impact study review letter at this point, so we can get into the specifics of that if we want to just go down through the rest of these.
Yeah, we'll go down through
first.
the rest of these. The
Okay.
traffic's gonna be its own.
So yeah, we understand that one is still open at this point. 3E, the covenants, conditions, restrictions. I mean, we're not proposing any deed restrictions. And obviously, anything that comes out of the, will be identified in the developer's agreement in terms of, I guess that one still remains open from that standpoint.
We'll have a CCR document.
Right.
And Attorney Miller will review it.
The 3F, the sewer authority signatures, so we've provided reviews and submissions to the authority. We received, basically their letter. They don't have any outstanding comments, from their engineering department at this point. We're still waiting on the sewage planning aspect of it from DEP. But ultimately, we acknowledge that we would get their signatures, but that wouldn't even be until the final plan. So it's really, I would consider that addressed from a preliminary standpoint, but that would be outstanding for a final plan. 3G, E&S approval, obviously we acknowledge that. That one remains open. The planning module approval, we're still waiting for that from DEP. So that's something that's outstanding yet. The draft developers agreement is outstanding. So 3J regarding the improvements for Zions View Road, since that comment was made back in September, we have now, we reflected Bartlett Extension, we reflected the improvement scenario on what we anticipated to be in terms of Zions View Road. Keep in mind, obviously, that has to go through a full highway occupancy permit, so we acknowledge that will obviously take time, but we're showing currently what we think is the realistic scenario of the improvements. We've designed our stormwater to accommodate that in terms of permitting, erosion, limits of disturbance, all of that type of stuff. So in my mind, I think that comment is addressed. It's just, obviously, that's going to be a work in progress, and the final version of that will be reflected on, the final version of the plan, essentially.
Yep, but that'll be open.
Yeah, it'll be open still.
Okay. Item number 4, this was Layman's comment, but it was also Chief Stevens' comment. When we resubmitted this plan, this comment really had to do mostly with building number 2. We adjusted the distance between the building and the circulation road for emergency apparatus, and we should be in good shape with what is shown now in terms of the distance. And then also, some of that had to do with the hydrants. We have public hydrants, and we have a public water extension. So all of those things should be addressed. I mean, I don't know if the chief has looked at the latest and greatest plan, but we talked about that in the staff meeting, and we did exactly what he has asked us to do. So that one should be addressed.
Did Lehman review that with you?
Yeah, he didn't have any issues with that.
Okay, so that's closed.
And then number 5, oh no, not quite, almost. Number 5 is regarding the additional waiver that we just added. So we provided general note number, so this response is not accurate anymore. We provided general note number 4 on the subdivision plan, and really just speaks to the whole scenario of the residual lots, and instead of providing a sketch plan at this point, the note speaks to at a time when development would occur on those lots, as we talked about earlier. So I think, short of obviously getting the waiver approved, that one should be addressed at this point too. And that was really it in terms of this letter. I know we went through, and Byron, if you would want to confirm, ultimately, back in August, we did go through like the county planning commission comments. So unless there was anything, I think those short of signatures and duplicate comments from the township engineer comments, I don't think there's any outstanding comments from the county.
We'll have to just tick down when we say closed and open and stuff, so that if there was a motion made tonight, then they would know what to say. But real quick, before we move on, number 1 on Lehman's letter, just to clarify, I mean, I know that technically you're willing to work and everything with us. Did I hear you say that, yes, you're gonna put that in the declaration agreement, the roof mounted equipment?
It'll be in the developer's agreement.
Okay, so then technically that one would still be open because it's just something that'll go in.
Don't we cover it with a note?
Yeah, we have a note provided on the plan.
Okay,
So I
okay.
think the comment itself should be,
It should be resolved before
Right,
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they do have the comment already.
yeah.
Okay, well then I'll just make sure I let attorney Miller know that. That's okay. oversight. Go ahead and close it. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, and if you can run down the York County planning letter, again, more of a
Yeah,
housekeeping
that's-
thing than anything.
So we responded to those comments on August 25th. So let me go, I have my response letter here. Let's see. Yeah, so their letter was dated July 29th, 2025. And
Correct.
so I'll go through here. I had them checked off from the last meeting. So in terms of their item number 1 under zoning, should ensure the number of parking spaces. You know, we had corrected that with our first resubmission, so item 1 was addressed. Item number 2 should ensure the buffers, the township officials should ensure the buffers, landscaping requirements are adequate, and I think we could all agree with that at this point. That one should have been addressed. So 1 and 2 are addressed. Number 3, now we're under subdivision land development. 3A, the cartway widths, we talked about that one in the prior letter. They're all shown on the plan now, so 3A is addressed. 3B is a signature. Clearly, we need to have the signed plans before we would get to the supervisors, so we acknowledge that. So 3B is open. 3C, talking about deed restrictions. That's a duplicate comment to the township engineer one. We have a note on sheet number 2 that speaks to anything regarding the existing, and there aren't any at this point, so 3C should be addressed. I have it checked off from last time. And then 3D, proof of waivers granted. Obviously, that one remains until they're approved. And then 3E is regarding the sewage planning module, another duplicate from the township engineers one, so that one remains outstanding. Transportation comments, number 4, I had checked off from last time, talking about the scope, the letter of regional significance. They sent it out, but there's nothing that needs to be done with that, so that one's checked off. Item number 5, regarding the weight restriction on Locust Point Road. This one I had checked off from before, so unless there's something to discuss there, that one should have been addressed with the last submission, or the August submission, I should say.
Well, and I believe that with that one, you guys aren't going to have any occupancy until after Canal Road betterment anyway, so I'm pretty positive that's what we talked about.
That's-
so the
yeah.
developers are doing that.
Yeah, and that's what it says, that's what it says. That's what it says in the response too, so you're right. So 5 should have been addressed. Number 6, I had remain open. East Manchester Township should coordinate with the developer on how the warehouses will operate, staging and accommodations for truck drivers. This is something we discussed in the Miller Pool responses. I had as comment number 13. So I think that's something that's going to be provided in the developers agreement from what I believe is what that response is. Go back to number 13.
I think that one should remain open only because it's going to be addressed elsewhere. But it's just to show that it does need to be addressed.
Item 6.
Yep.
Yeah, and I still had it circled on my list from that last meeting. We haven't responded to that since.
Okay.
And then that was it on the county's letter, so that should be,
3B, D, E, and 6.
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so these, let's just go over the waivers. You have them listed on your front cover sheet there, and you're adding your 7th one, which, and that is, even though we don't have them here, you've already added the 7th one to the copy you gave her this afternoon.
Yeah, I sent it to the
Township
zoning
has it
officer.
in its
Yep.
their possession. Okay. If you can go down each one of these and just briefly address again why you're requesting them. I mean, I have that down in the full breakout, but as a matter of public hearing, just so we know exactly why it is you're requesting them.
Sure. Bear with me here, I have them in front of me here, I'm gonna dig them up. Okay. I'll start with section 208-34A. This is regarding the plan sheet size. You know, the requirement's 18 by 24 or 24 by 36. We're proposing 30 by 42. We still have 80-some sheets in the set, so clearly a large project like this needs a larger plan sheet size. So that's waiver number one. Waiver number two, section 208-44F. This is regarding a setback distance for grading at the top of a slope near a property line. The requirement is it's like 10 feet, then plus whatever the vertical height of your actual slope is. This is just a partial waiver request, and this is really along the DHL property line because there was an agreement in place with the current property owner and DHL to be able to grade within, basically utilize that easement area to grade between the two properties. So that's our justification for it. Section 208-46B1. This is regarding the widening of a roadway. The waiver request is really for Manchester Street because we're providing improvements and whatnot along our development frontage of Zions View Road. So the waiver request is really for leaving Manchester Street in its current condition in terms of widening. And we're not proposing traffic onto that street.
Staff requested that.
Yeah, and that was one of the comments. That was one of the comments in Layman's letter where we provided a follow-up waiver submission. Section 208-47, this is curbs and sidewalks, and this is really just along the same street frontage of Manchester Street, and what would be the residual lots along Zions View Road that are not being developed at this point. Section 208-46J, private streets. Basically, this is allowing a private driveway to serve more than one property. We're not proposing a public street here into the site, so ultimately we have to request this waiver to have more than one property use the driveway. 208-64. This is just a partial waiver we have proposed utilities, and for us to be able to, it's really pertaining to electric, where we want to provide some overhead poles into the site, and then ultimately the electric goes underground from there. We have to request a partial waiver to allow the poles to come from the main lines along the street into our site to a certain point where then it would go underground, transformers for each of the buildings, and ultimately we have to request a waiver to do that. And then lastly, the one I just brought up earlier, section 208-31A to A21 for the sketch plan of a prospective street layout for residual tracks shown on the plan. In lieu of providing the sketch or providing the note on the plan that speaks to the two residual lots, if and when they get developed, then that would be the time when they would do something like that.
Okay,
Should be 7.
that was 7. All right, does anybody have any questions as to the waivers being requested and why they're being requested?
Are you bringing, when you bring Bartlett out?
Yes.
Those sidewalks coming out towards that hammerhead or that Catasauqua turnaround, are you extending those the whole way out?
Yes, sir. Yep. So the existing cul-de-sac that's out there now, there's sidewalk that goes to the end, basically where the cul-de-sac is. So the cul-de-sac goes away with the design that we're doing. We extend Bartlett all the way to Zions View Road. Sidewalk on that side of the street gets extended with it, and then there'll be a crossing. And then we're providing sidewalk all along the northern frontage of Zions View Road along our development site to where it ends right now at the DHL driveway. So it'll be connected then ultimately to the park.
All right. 2/3 of the way through that.
I was looking for me missing. You have the, street widening, do you have the 6-month note on the plan then?
Yeah, but, so I could have mentioned that too. Well, it's on the cover sheet for both the
Yeah.
widening and for the sidewalks. We have a little, there's a note there that's, right underneath the waivers that speaks to the 6-month
Right
note.
up like number 5, right here.
Okay.
The last thing we'll want to discuss is the gentleman at the end, maybe, TRG's traffic study. We have your letter dated today, which I believe is a response to in part, a response to the GM letter we dated November 13th. Concerning the traffic study that was completed, if you could come up and let us know what was done, what you found, all the fun stuff.
John Seitz with TRG. Do you have a copy of the response letter? Okay, everybody has that? Great.
The ink is still wet. The ink is still wet.
As Christie said, a traffic study was submitted to the township last month. And we do appreciate Craig Creasy and Greg Miller's ability to get through and review that, so thank you very much.
Can you hit the person with the voice, the button on there?
Well, on the bottom, there's an icon with it. There we go.
Now you're on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you to Greg Creasy and your team to get it reviewed and everything like that. So, first thing before we get into the review letter, maybe just to go through the recommendations and conclusions of the study. Yeah, really the first 4 recommendations. The first recommendation is that we would create the new 4-legged intersection. Remember, when we originally talked to the township, as we know, Zions View Road 921 is just a 2-lane roadway, but we are lining up directly opposite the emergency access, which extends Bartlett. And it was the township's desire that Bartlett Drive be extended. That would tie into our leg, creating a 4th leg. So that is, really the first one. And then also, along with that, at the request of East Manchester Township, that we would make this a 4-way stop-controlled intersection. And I think the reason that came from the township, and I think we sort of bought off on this too, is we feel that we can make this a tighter intersection and make it more difficult, that we do not want trucks heading eastbound towards Manchester Borough. The second recommendation was that the developer would widen Zions View Road about 3,200 feet. They would pick up at the DHL driveway. They would go to the driveway for the Trade Center 83 East, and this would be the same cross-section that the Canal Road Betterment Project has, where it's 11-foot travel lanes, 4-foot shoulders, and 6-foot shoulders on curved areas. So really 921 would get an upgrade for about 3/4 of a mile. Number 3, the developer would work with East Manchester Township and PennDOT to establish a truck restriction on that section of Zions View Road that we talked about between the driveway to Trade Center 83 East and York Street at Manchester Borough, so that we would work on restricting that, make a truck restriction in there, sign that appropriately, do everything we can do to get trucks off of that section of roadway.
And you limited that to signage, and I mean, again, you actually put some effort into doing your best, and we get that because it's getting really hard. When you have drivers with a GPS, there's only so much. So when you say restrict, it's restrict to the best of your ability to do this, or? Like, what does restrict mean? Like, what measures?
Why don't you talk about the intersection and how that promotes traffic to make that right-hand turn and take it down a truck route rather than through the borough?
Yeah, by having the connection of Bartlett Drive tying into Zions View Road, we now have a new north-south route for trucks that, yeah, DHL, whatever, they're not supposed to make that left, or wherever the trucks are coming from, they should not be on this section of Zions View Road. This will facilitate, have another north-south route. We will have a very large radius on Bartlett between Zions View Road and Bartlett so that it is very inviting for trucks. It will be very narrow, skinny. It will be neck down. It will have signage to really reduce and eliminate trucks heading to the east. So we really want to make it inviting to the south and really make it very restrictive to the east. So we really want to make that, and like I said, it was a suggestion from the township. We believe it's a good suggestion with the four-way stop sign. We do believe we can make it a tighter intersection, just make everything more restrictive. The bigger the intersection is, the easier it is for trucks to really go where they're not supposed to go. And we feel by having the restricted intersection on those legs, that will help facilitate and get trucks away from that eastern section of Route 921.
Can you just describe for me what is going to be within the driveway of the project? Is there going to be a wall or any? I remember us talking about it, but just refresh my memory.
Well, we with the four-way stop sign, it will be one lane. It will be one lane coming out. So it will not be multiple. It will not be multiple legs coming out. It will be one lane coming out.
Right, because it can't. So you're saying it can't be like DHL's driveway, where they restrict trucks turning left, but they have multiple lanes there, and it's because they're not across from.
Right, because we have to have traffic go through, it really does not, it just does not work. So we are sort of looking at this different route. It's easier to restrict trucks when you do have a three-legged intersection, but by opening up Bartlett, we do need to facilitate trucks to go straight through, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to facilitate the trucks to go straight through, to proceed south, to head down to exit 24.
Hey, John. In your expert opinion, other than someone on the south side crossing over Zions View, working together, having the same building, same operation, ownership, tying Bartlett in, you mentioned a three-legged intersection. Would you, professional opinion, would it be advantageous or not to connect that road? What advantages are we having to connect Bartlett to this road to give these trucks access across for north-south?
Well, I will look at it from an overall aspect of looking at it. I do believe right now you have that industrial park, and I'm talking really about the existing industrial park. Let's not talk about this project, but let's just talk about where Willow Springs Lane, where Willow Springs between Canal
down there.
Between Canal and over to Board Road, and we have Espresso Way. So we have that, we'll call it the Orchard Business Park, Industrial Park. That right now, there's really only three roads in. There's Willow Springs Lane on both ends, and then there's Espresso Way, and there's nothing to the north. What it does do is with only, really you can only get out east and west. You can't get out really north and south. I do feel that it's advantageous. I think it's good planning for townships normally when they do have more connections that, say somebody lives in Manchester somewhere else, that if they work at Starbucks, it's just an easier, quicker route to get in. It's more circuitous that if you have to go around, sort of go around and get in, you work at Starbucks. It just makes it easier. I think it's better planning. I do think there's certainly advantages to connecting Bartlett. You know, if you're looking, going back to, it is easier to restrict trucks if it's a three-legged intersection. You sort of got to weigh things out. I mean, I just think there's positives and negatives of virtually everything. Overall, I think it's good having another access point to that industrial park, just for accessibility, emergency services, just commuters, just easier to get in and out. You know, it may facilitate even people, you know, it may be easier to get to the north side instead of, there's really too much traffic heading south. All that traffic in the industrial park that's headed down to exit 24, you know, maybe some of it will filter up to exit 28 a little bit easier. So there's sort of good and bad. You know, it's not a straight answer.
Okay, that answers my question. You think it's better to have it than not have it? And you had mentioned a three-legged intersection, and
yeah,
I mean, and then we have to consider we're building this industrial park, and we're only putting one access, and we're not requiring to put a second access out on Zion's U. So what you do for the one side, you think you should have to do for the other side of the road.
The last recommendation deals with that if the use of this were ever to change, that right now it's for high cube transload and short-term storage warehouse, that if this were ever to change to something, you know, bottom line is if there's some pick and pack would come in, something that does have a higher trip generation, that a new traffic study would have to be done, new counts would be done, and you really, you know, start back at square one on that. So that would be tied into the PennDOT permit too. I'd like to go into the response letter from that Grove Miller had put together. So if you have that letter in front of you, the first one I think was really a comment, just you know, saying that the three buildings were just under 1.7 million square feet, and certainly we acknowledge that. The traffic study looked at a little bit higher than that, and that's just because as development happens, buildings get a little bit smaller just to fit everything on, but the traffic study shows a higher square footage than what we're proposing to build on. The second one is the extension of Bartlett Drive and creating the four-legged intersection. Once again, we acknowledge and, you know, as stated, that's something that the township brought up early on in this process, and the developer agreed that Hillwood would fund the cost of extending that and opening that up. The next one was, number 3 was an engineering study, specifically a TE 102 form for the always stop controlled intersection. And that is something that PennDOT requires. I did email that back to the township and Greg to take a look at. But that's something that the PennDOT is going to have to look at and buy off on that. I will say this, the four-way stop control is not a slam dunk. PennDOT may look at that because typically with a four-way stop control, what normally happens is four-way stop control normally comes in for a reason such as the traffic volumes are so high that it's very close to warranting a signal, but it doesn't warrant a signal. And the four-way stop control is a good method of getting traffic through an intersection. Or for 8 hours during the day, you need like 300 vehicles heading this direction, 200 vehicles heading that direction, and that warrants it too. We don't have that much. Bottom line is there's not that level of traffic at this intersection. So traffic-wise, we don't technically warrant the always stop sign, stop control. However, there is a little wiggle room. I wrote the TE 102 form up with the wiggle room in it, and we'll sort of see what PennDOT says, but like I said, it's not guaranteed. PennDOT may come back and say, we're not accepting of the always stop sign, and they may make us do a conventional intersection. And I will say, I think it's going to be more difficult to control trucks if we go that route. So that's why I would really like to get the township on board with like I said, it was the township's idea. We think it's a good idea, and we'd really like the township to be supportive of the always stop control, because we do think that gives us the best chance to make it that tight intersection to keep trucks from traveling to the east on 921.
Can you just remind me what the conventional way would be?
Well, it would it'd just be a conventional intersection. We would have left turn, for instance, on Zionsview Road, we would construct left turn lanes, probably about 150-foot left turn lanes on Zionsview Road in both directions. We would the intersections, the north-south intersections, probably the bigger change is on Zionsview. Zionsview Road would get much wider. That we would be much wider on Zionsview Road.
Would they
And like
make the driveway have multiple lanes?
No, because, and that's one thing that PennDOT at unsignalized intersections, PennDOT generally does, and Eric Keinert especially, does not like the two lane side by side. We're able to get away with it at DHL because it's a left and a right, but when you have, this would be a left and a shared through and right. And to do that, you really had those, you can't get that separation. At DHL, there's a pork chop there. You really can't get that much separation because the through lane and the left turn lane need to be side by side. They really need to be side by side. You can't put a pork chop between them. You can't really separate them. And Eric Keinert's idea, PennDOT's idea is that if you have two vehicles, one wants to go straight, one wants to turn left, they are competing for sight distance. That this vehicle is trying to look through this vehicle to look to the left to see if it's clear. This vehicle is trying to look through this vehicle to look to the right to see if it's clear. And drivers don't have x-ray vision, so they can't see through the vehicles. And so PennDOT really is against, it's like virtually never done anywhere that Eric Keinert does not let that happen. And it might have happened 15 years ago, but it doesn't happen anymore. That PennDOT does not allow those intersections anymore. So we really, at an unsignalized intersection. Now, if this were signalized, but the traffic volumes are not even close to warranting signalization here. They're just really, Zionsview Road this section it's really a pretty low volume roadway in this section. So we don't have those issues where we could get a signal here. So we're sort of limited what we can do there.
That was very well explained.
Yeah.
Okay, that really helped.
Okay.
I'm still at that 4-lane. I tell you what, when you get to a 4-way and everybody's taking turns, everything operates good. I mean, everybody knows what they're doing. There's one thing that messes it up. It's a truck. It messes everything up. And
Well,
it's
we
too
want to
slow.
make it,
They
we want
block
to make
in, and
it
I'm
so
looking
that,
at
so
this
that,
and going,
so the trucks,
thousands of trucks.
so the trucks.
I'm not trying to get my head around. I think you got the best, I think you got the best thing, but
So like I said, we really want to facilitate it, that trucks coming out of our site can only make this, straight, or they can make the right turn, but they cannot make, we really want to make that tight that they
Let me
cannot make
ask you
that left turn.
why would we want trucks going straight across when if they turn right, that is a straight shot down around Canal? Why would we want them going expresso and the whole way through there if they're trying to get to the interstate or they're trying to get off site? I'm going back to this connection on Bartlett. Why can't we say all trucks have to turn? You have a truck lane. All trucks have to go, when you're leaving the site, the last 200 feet before we get to the intersection, have striping. All trucks have to go on this side of the striping and make a right-hand turn. No trucks are allowed to go straight through. Well, I'm not saying, I don't understand why they need to go straight through and get into another industrial park and hit stop signs and work their way down to a signalized intersection when you can just turn right and head down the canal.
Well, it is suitable for trucks. The Bartlett and Willow Springs getting out the board to 24, that's all suitable for trucks. That's really been the truck route, the established truck route, I think, for virtually everybody else up here. And it was just sort of looked at that, hey, that's, to get down to exit 24, to go south, that's the established truck route. When you want to go north, you would take the right turn, go on Canal, out to Susquehanna Trail, make the right turn to go north on Susquehanna Trail up to exit 28. So it's just really, that's what everybody's sort of been thinking about. That's what, I don't know, everybody's been thinking about that, talking about it, and that's really the way it's been for virtually everybody, and just sort of.
And is that a Crown Road? Drainage down, so we got trucks bouncing up, over, bouncing down through and going, and we gotta wait till one truck gets to that intersection before we let anybody else go. And we're gonna throw hundreds of trucks out there on that road trying to go across those bumps. It's gonna be slower. Correct?
Well, I mean, I'll say this, we'll be, we'll have roadway profiles on our design, we'll meet all
I
all
know that,
PennDOT
but
requirements.
you ever see a
We'll-
truck go across? They gotta go, they turtle it across. And I'm just trying to get these trucks, I don't know, I'm not gonna get Bartlett out of there in my head.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at this from a total novice standpoint. I'm not an engineer, but it appears to me that, like, I'm hearing you talk, and you're talking all the things that we want to hear. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna put signage up. We're gonna try to limit their ability to make those turns. But at the end of the day, I'm hearing the ghost of Ed in my ear saying trucks are going wherever they want to go anyway. And the lady down there on the corner of Board and 400, where they're cutting across her yard and going over boulders and everything else. So they're going to do what they want to do. So my question is, and again, just brainstorming out of the box here, but isn't there a way that we can hold the developer and the occupant of the buildings responsible for making sure that the trucks go the right way? And I guess legally, maybe we can't, but you could agree to hold your occupant of that building accountable for making sure trucks are going the right way, whether that be with cameras and fines, or you have the ability to identify what trucks are coming in and out, who's driving those trucks, where the police or the camera systems that they would set up wouldn't have that ability. Isn't there something we can do to hold the developer and the occupants accountable voluntarily?
I don't think so. I think that once they leave the development site, it becomes an enforcement issue for the regional police. So certainly we could put in some sort of surveillance and have the tenants provide messaging to their drivers. A lot of the drivers are contract drivers, and as we know, they're multinational, so speak a lot of different languages, so they rely on that GPS. We've looked into trying to update GPS, and it's really challenging. There's no easy way to do it to get a truck route plugged into that.
And I don't think you have the ability individually to do that. However, I do think that your occupant or tenant has the ability to monitor and survey who's coming in and out of there and have some sort of punishment for making those wrong turns. You may not be able to control them once they're on the road, but you can monitor what they're doing and make sure they don't repeatedly do it with some sort of penalty.
If it's private, I'm gonna throw this out there. Harley Davidson, we ran into this situation. That's their truckers. They're using their truckers, their trailers, everything. Those drivers know if they go the wrong way,
It's enforceable.
that's enforceable. Now, like you said, Chris, we know the news that was on just recently about it.
And I get that, but at the end of the day, the citizens of our township don't really want to hear, well, the guy's a multinational and he doesn't read English, so he's making the wrong turn or doing whatever he wants. That doesn't fix the problem. But I think the person that effectively is leasing or owns that warehouse should have the responsibility of making sure that that the drivers coming in and out of there are not doing the things that we don't want them to do. And I don't know how to enforce it, but I think that should be something that we consider.
You can make that a condition, and then Attorney Miller would have to look into that. I'm not sure how that would work.
And I don't know that we have the ability to legally require it, but I think the developer could voluntarily say that they're willing to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a interesting approach, and I think that we could look at and making some best effort to add language to leases. That's usually something that doesn't work well. First section to get deleted from a lease when the lawyers get involved. But perhaps we can talk to Attorney Miller and see if there's something that we can have. We have within the CCRs, we of course have restrictions on you can't park on the private road, so you have to park on the site, and that for each property owner or operator, they have that. But you're speaking more of an enforcement issue that really becomes a police matter, whether that's public or private, and that's not something we get into. But we're open to exploring some options there. I mean, what they are, but we're willing to talk it over with the township and Attorney Miller and see what we can actually do there legally.
It just seems like at the end of the day, this has been an ongoing problem, and everybody sort of shrugs their shoulders and says, well, there's nothing else we can do.
What ends up happening to do is you're either gonna need a private citizen, the lady whose yard's getting ripped up, to file a lawsuit and have a robust restatement of torts. Oh, it's the driver. Why was the driver there? His business was picking up stuff here.
Right.
But why are they there? And then you, through a restatement of torts, which is just catching a wide net, you sue everybody involved with why that truck was on her front lawn. And then it gets back to, but that's all private.
And nobody has the resources
Right.
to do that.
Right.
But if we're allowing these kind of things to go into our township, I think if, to the extent that we have the ability to limit it now, it's the time to do it.
I'm digressing, but I saw something on the news the other day. So with the new toll system, the attendant-less tolls, the pass-through, so they're something like 60 to 70% of those tolls go unpaid. And so now the state is holding registrations from those vehicles or suspending licenses if they can for the operators of the vehicle. So, I mean, that's a way to address it, but again, that's not something we can do with any authority. But again, we'll look into it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I have a thought. I know we're the ones who asked for you guys to open up Bartlett. That was always the goal since 1605 Bartlett Drive went in. And I'm wondering if maybe you guys would study if it didn't open. I think our biggest worry, as Herb is saying, is that it gets built and then it doesn't work. And they're still going into the borough and they're still tearing up the lawn on the corner, and even though it's a no truck route, and you know, what else is maybe Bartlett not our best option, and maybe it's a pipe dream, I don't know. And does that mean maybe Willow Springs shouldn't be cul-de-sac? And is this something, another avenue that should be explored maybe? Just a thought.
I mean, that just now, with what's being proposed here, you're forcing, like, forget about this development, trucks that are on Pioneer Road are going into the borough. They don't have to stop, they just go in the borough.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're forcing them to stop, and now we're inviting them to go, they want to go south, they want to get to the interchange. You're giving them a way to avoid the intersection that you're talking about. Sure, our driveway's lining up with this, you're forcing them to stop and make that decision versus just being able to just plow right through and go to the borough. So I think this is like, I think this is the best approach that you could have to forget about this development, but also help with that current situation. You're forcing them to stop and be able to go right to go south.
That is one thing that's happening on Ward Road right now. They can plow right through when they're coming from, you know, the interchange and everything. They're coming up towards the borough, and instead of turning onto Willow Springs, they continue to go straight, and they don't turn on the Bayshore School Road. And there's tons of signs posted, you know, the whole way up, and they still continue to go forward to that four-way. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I remember us talking about this, that this would prevent or force them to make a decision. So I don't know. I just was thinking outside the box.
We're trying to get as
More
creative as we
studies
can
and
because,
more
as
studies.
our colleague down there said, it's just, we talk about this every plan. It's not like we're not aware of it. It's not like we don't care about it, but there's limited enforcement, voluntary or not, upon the part of the, you know, the applicant, what they can do. There's very limited things we can do. It just, and then you get to, okay, people, private citizens can finally sue some of these companies that have trucks that they're contracted with, so it doesn't matter. But that's private, who has the money to do that.
Right.
So you just end up, and we're just in this circle where it's just.
And I mean, no disrespect to you. You're saying all the right things. The problem is that we keep hearing it and it's not fixing anything. So how do we fix it?
I would also think too, like that connection, like think of the truck getting off of exit 24. If that connection wasn't there, you're inviting them to go down to the borough and come on time to the road. You have this connection. I don't know exactly how GPS would take you, but I would think that this would be a better path to go than to go down to the borough to go on time to it. I think that would potentially improve as well with this connection.
I agree. I think except for that afternoon rush, I think if this connection were not there, and in the morning, in the early afternoon, I think the GPS would would probably tell them turn left and go through the four-way stop sign intersection to head back to go south. So I do agree with that.
You were talking about, you tried to work with the changing GPS, however you said that. Do you know how long it takes before, like, this change will show up on the GPS?
I don't recall. I'm sure it's several months. You upload it to a NDOT system, and then it eventually makes its way to the web or the GPS. But
They're starting to consolidate that, where whether it's Garmin or any of the automakers, they all have their own name for it. But when you look in the corner, Navtech is one of the biggest in the country, and there was some guy in California trying to make what we're talking about, a federal-based system where once townships or municipalities have roads off limits, you can actually put that in one spot and then it gets distributed everywhere. I think that's a huge undertaking, but it's literally the solution we're talking about, and that's got to be a pain in the rear end, logistically, politically, legally to do. But they're starting to get the main GPS data set that everyone resells and buys. You're getting it all into one place now. Once that's done, you're going to be able to start doing some of the stuff, making roads, it'll appear red or something, you know.
All right, moving on, number four. Number four deals with the SALDO and the township's preferred level of service in the township, that the township has a preferred level of service of level of service D. And I just want to start off by saying that that is a township preferred level of service. I think, as everybody knows, the municipality's planning code does have restrictions on what municipalities can have developers do at off-site intersections. So it's generally, these are looked at as sort of nice to know, sort of for your informational purposes only, but they really can't legally be tied into the developer to do off-site improvements. But that-
Items 4B and C will be deferred to PennDOT. Just so you know.
And
you just want to talk about the status of that process? Just give them an update.
just that the traffic impact study has been submitted to PennDOT. PennDOT goes through their, as you know, their review process. So we did get scoping approval. And with that, the traffic study was submitted. We will certainly be in constant contact with PennDOT and certainly meet all, since we are accessing a state road, 921 Zionsview Road, we do need, we acknowledge we need to get the PennDOT permit. We need to abide by all their regulations, rules, everything that goes along with that. So certainly we will do that. Just 4A talked about Bartlett and Espresso, and this is something, and I think we'll be working with the township and their engineers on this, that with the closing of Willow Springs Lane, what that does is that brings more traffic onto Espresso Way. That during the PM peak hour, I think there's existing 385 trips that go through that intersection. With the closing of Willow Springs Lane, there will be over 800 trips going through that intersection, and that does really change the whole complexity of that intersection. So we do need to look at that a little bit more, but we can work in conjunction with the township engineer on that. As far as 4B and 4C, I'll sort of tie those two together. It's the northbound ramp and the southbound ramp down at Church. I was out at, I watched those intersections from 6 to 9 and from 3 to 6 for an entire day. And the problem, and.
What intersection were you talking about?
What's this?
Which
This is
one
this is Board Road and the northbound ramp, Church. Watching that intersection and looking over at the southbound intersection as well for for those 6 hours, the 3 peak hours in the morning, 3 peak in the afternoon. What PennDOT really needs to do is they need another lane, another westbound lane that, as Board Road goes south, the right turn lane needs to have its own lane that goes across 83, and that lane terminates at the southbound ramp. That intersection really works fairly well. The only problem, the reason that intersection doesn't work is because traffic is backed up at the southbound ramp. The traffic that is heading westbound over the bridge backs up to the northbound ramp. Traffic can't get through. That's what the problem with that intersection is. The northbound ramp intersection really operates pretty well. Now, one thing I did note, and I think I copied the township on this too, is there's a loop detector out. There's a loop detector that's malfunctioning for the southbound left turn lane. And especially in the morning, that's when most of the people are coming off of I-83 and going north on the northbound ramp. That's when that's busiest. And it does back up almost on 83. But the problem right now is there's a loop detector that's broken. And what happens is there should be a lot more time allocated to that northbound off-ramp, but it's not happening because the loop detector is broken. Manchester Township said that they will get that fixed, and when they get that fixed, that's really going to help the northbound off-ramp in the morning. That it will help it out tremendously. So that fix should happen very, very shortly. But the other fix really is there needs to be another westbound bridge lane that goes over from the
We got that on
north
record,
ramp to the
that's
southbound
part of
ramp.
the site improvements?
Yeah, PennDOT spent years and millions of dollars doing that exit 24 to 28 study. I don't know, I think it's a lot more evident and easy than whatever.
They studied the study.
Yeah,
Times.
yeah.
But that one thing there that you mentioned with, the classification, that it's a nice gesture, but we can't really look at off-site improvements. But I think opening Bartlett Road allows us to tell, we can now go to other intersections and evaluate them. If you're
I'm
gonna say.
not really following. Bartlett is a voluntary, the developer said that he would voluntarily, the township asked him to really spend the money to open that up. The developer is voluntarily, taking on that cost to
But
do
you're
that.
saying we're gonna open that up to, how many trucks a day do you anticipate going through this? I mean, there's, how many trucks? Three trucks a day in a bay?
I will
In and out?
tell you.
In one bay, 3 trucks?
Per the ITE, we'd have 17 trucks in the morning and 9 trucks in the afternoon.
For this whole development?
We would have 374 per day. That's trips, that's ins and outs, so it's about 187 trucks in, 187 trucks out a day.
That's half what I thought.
We got 200, 300, 400, 500, 500 and some bays. That math doesn't add up.
I have.
That means to say then we don't need buildings this size.
I have done post-occupancy counts at numerous warehouses, and virtually every single one of them, it's lower than these IT trip generation rates. They do not generate, like I said, I've gone out and done these post counts, and the traffic is not as intensive as what IT says it is.
That's a good point.
They are conservative.
Well, no, I'm just saying that, why do you need a building that big?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
building them that big because that's where that's what the customers want. Why do they want
So
something
you're
that
telling
big?
him, it's like saying, you're only using 1/3 of your bays in a day. Yeah, that's just, okay, it's just logistic wise and the number wise, that the math doesn't add up. And I think with one intersection there, it's,
There's a warehouse I worked on up in Hazelton. Niagara Water is there. It's 500,000 square feet, and they have about 30 employees. And, I mean, it's filled with water and drinks and whatever, but they don't, it does not have the ins and outs that, whatever, it's storing materials, it's. Number five talks about the Bartlett and Espresso Way, once again, sort of talking about that and sort of questioning about, what we did was, right now at Bartlett and Espresso Way, there's a stop sign on Espresso Way. When we ran the original level of service, we kept the stop sign where it was. We found out it was deficient. So we've tried a couple different things to get the best level of service. We've put the stop sign on the north to south leg of Bartlett. We put a stop sign there, and on Espresso Way, we have a stop except right turn. That works a little better. We still need to work at this a little bit more. We also did evaluate always stop control. So far, we will work with Byron and his team, come up with something there, come up with the best solution to that. But it's really not a problem at all caused with this development. It's because really because of the closing of Willow Springs Lane. So it's not related to this development at all. And then the number six, just noting about during the PennDOT scoping meeting, that there was some discussion on the Regional Way and Canal Road, and that there was, talk that this developer would pay for additional studies, and that certainly can happen. I will say this, there's already a developer's agreement between North Point and Manchester Township to do those exact studies. So I don't, it could be a fee in lieu of or something like that or whatever. I think that's something to be negotiated down the road, but something to look at and negotiate down the road. So that was the response letter. Like I said, I look forward to working with the township's traffic engineer and the township's engineer on resolving things and coming up with a solution that is a win-win for everybody.
so in number 6, if you're doing that study, is there a way we can just do it? If you're in agreement, we can just get that study, if it's the same one, right? Is that what you're saying?
And you can, call Manchester Township, talk to them, but they already have it in their developer's agreement with North Point, that North Point is already on the hook to do those studies, so.
It depends. Usually those kinds of studies get done after occupancy or 6 months after occupancy or whatever that is. These buildings in Manchester Township are gonna be done long before this development gets done. So the point to having the traffic signal warrant study is to see what these new buildings generate to that intersection at that time, which could be years after that. So that's the whole point of it.
That's fair. I will say this, that a signal warrant analysis, generally, 99% of the time, it really has to be caused by the side street traffic. So it's the amount of traffic coming out Regional Way. So it's really, even if you add more traffic to Canal Road, it's probably is not going to move the needle on if a traffic signal is warranted. It's really just how much traffic is North Point sending out Regional Way. But
Which is a shame because, I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it looks hectic out there. Like, it looks like it would need a signal. It just blows my mind. I don't get it. Just don't get it.
yeah, the one thing is everybody that comes on right now that comes out there, about 90 to 95% of the traffic turns right, and turning, if you're on the Regional Way, it's much easier to make that right turn than it is a left turn. So that's why, yeah, it's just easier to do.
You guys could treat this letter the same as you would for LPL law firm, if you did make a motion. So just so you
Yeah,
know.
and the motions we're looking at is we don't go over point by point Attorney Miller's letter, but just make a point to mention in a motion that those, any kind of comments by Attorney Miller that had yet to be addressed need to be addressed. And same thing here. This is more informative for us, needed to be talked about. It is streaming, so there's lots of people that may want to have heard your explanation for this, which you did a fine job. Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
To follow up, I know you put that profile together, those two. If, I didn't realize that until I saw that profile, that 40-some foot wall right up there against Manchester Street. Okay, so I'm the neighbor across the street. I'm looking at a 40-foot wall, or I'm take the landscaping away and I'm looking at a 35-foot wall. So we hide the 35-foot wall at top, and then we have this 40-some foot wall right along Manchester Street. I'm not sure because the profiles, I know how they're deceptive, vertical and horizontal, but how close is that wall to our right-of-way line?
I don't know the answer off the top of my head. It's, it's outside of the setbacks and everything that's required there. I mean, you mentioned 40 feet. It might be 40 feet at the highest point, but there's a lot of slope to that roadway. So as you start to go, to make the road flat, that's naturally what has to happen is you have to have some type of retaining wall in the fill area, and that's, it would taper down to no wall as you start to go a couple hundred feet or whatever it is up Manchester Street elevation. So that section probably is probably the worst.
The worst, you got my attention. But I'm just thinking, I mean, I'm looking at, what I'm getting at is, can we put landscaping in front of that wall and soften it up? Is there room?
I mean, I think.
I don't know if there's any drainage.
Too about putting the, you can't put the trees and stuff like that in the township, right away.
That's why I said I don't know enough room.
I picture a moat and a drawbridge.
Is this what you want to see, or what do you want me to?
So that's the section there, but like, it'd probably be more helpful to look at the plan, so maybe the sheet or two before that.
Oh.
There's the township right away, and I think it's 30 feet from the center line. And then we have some distance and some green slope, so kind of like right there where you're pointing.
Yeah.
You have a 30-foot right away from the center of the roadway, so we're clearly outside of that. Then there's setback distances and whatnot, to the building and whatnot. So then we have some grading that's going on there. There's an existing pond there that's getting filled in as part of our chapter 105 permit.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Okay, so that's down by the farm pond.
Is it this? Was it this? Or was it? Oh, right here. Oh, I see it now.
So that wall, you're kind of pointing to the wall just outside that 2 rows of evergreen trees there, which
Oh, right here.
those are actually larger than any of the other ones planted on the site. They're the giant green, giant, what are they,
Yeah.
what are they called?
Dairy mine.
Anyway, they're larger.
Green giants are supposed to be deer resistant.
So they are the
shit.
larger tree to help screen and grow much quicker than some. But, I mean, they're clearly, we're outside of the setbacks and the things that we need to there from a design standpoint.
Did you say these are on top of the wall?
On top of the site, yeah. I mean, when we initially stood this plan, we had them down below, but what were they screening,
Well, it softens it up, that's all I'm saying.
I
You
mean,
ca-
we planted, plant some trees in front of
And
it all
actually
that time.
landscape it in front of it if we had.
I just wasn't sure if there was some drainage there, Chris or Josh and I.
We're really taking the drainage away, because like, what gets there now, we're essentially removing the watershed that gets to, there's a culvert that goes across the rotary that we were talking about. We're essentially removing the watershed that gets to that culvert, so planting a few trees in front of that shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you, appreciate it.
There is a sanitary sewer that runs down along there, so we have to stay outside of some of those things.
That's why I wasn't sure if there's drainage, utilities, or anything in that area, but anyway, to soften it, because when you're talking, you're one, that's, and we look at this as what, 16 foot here?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
But anyway, I mean, it's a big wall right along the road.
What's that? Fiber optic. We located it, because as part of the cell tower, we provided some additional survey. It should be shown on our plans there now.
Because when they went to build the sanitary, with the last project, they hit,
I heard about it,
and
yeah.
then they moved the sanitary into the road, which we were trying to avoid. So be aware that, right along that end of the road there, there's a large fiber optic.
And for the most part, to your point, like, we're filling all that area, and we're kind of staying away from the road with what we're doing there, so I don't think where we have our biggest, we're the driveway, or the emergency access driveway, and how we're routing utilities back to the cell tower. That's probably the biggest challenge, but to your point, I did hear about the fiber.
Yeah.
We went out and did some additional, locates with the, utility locating on it should be shown on the plan set there.
Okay. While they weren't on the previous plan, they were not, when they were called for the PA1, they were never marked.
Yeah.
When they started building the sanitary.
Is that lumen? Is that utility lumen?
It's like I think they said it's like an 8 point something, it's a larger pipe, it's a larger fiber optic cable line.
I was just wondering who it was, like you list all the utilities on the cover sheet, Comcast and all that stuff. And Lumen was down there, which I remember it used to be like CenturyLink or something. Is that the fiber optic?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that one, we had some trees in front of that wall, we just have to, there was some utilities.
Yeah.
Some other conflicts there.
Anything else? Or were you satisfied with?
Yeah, I appreciate them offering to put some, soften it up. I didn't even think about that until I saw the profile.
Right.
I wanted to just clarify the waivers, just so I'm sure I'm clear on what we're
Yes.
talking about. So the street widening and the curbs, you're asking for a partial waiver, so basically you're talking about a 6-month defer note, whatever we call that, so if we come back down the road, you're gonna do it, you're just saying you don't wanna do it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question, we are doing widening curbs and sidewalks all along Zion View.
It's just Manchester, right?
Manchester Street, in fact, that's the one we're requesting partial waiver, and the frontage along, where the residual lots are along Zion View, we're not improving beyond our development frontage.
Okay.
So the waiver requests are for those two locations.
So when that would get developed in the future, then that developer would be responsible for that at that point?
They would have to go through the
Okay.
process, yes.
Okay. And then my other question with the underground utility lines. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying there's poles on the street right now. You're just saying you don't want to bury those poles, but you're going to go underground from that pole.
Not quite. So there's existing poles along Zion View and Manchester Street. What we're requesting waiver is, it's better, it's more efficient to take it overhead come into the site at some point from those pole lines. And then at that point, you'll be down underground, and it'll be underground to the buildings, to the transformers and whatnot. Versus having to go underground 1,000 feet from the street when you could have a pole line, to go into the site there. And typically, when we can do that along like the main access driveway, it's not uncommon to some of the other ones in the area where we requested that same waiver. And it's really just for the electric. I mean, all the other stuff is underground already. So it's really just for the electric into the site.
Okay. So Byron, is that functional or is that cosmetic that we have it set up that way?
For the electric?
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why we require it. So is it just cosmetic or is it for a functional purpose?
Why we have it in the ordinance, I'd say is more, it's kind of a little both, I hate to say it, but I mean, I would say functionality is that if we can get them from being overhead, it benefits. But again, in this case, for the length that they're want to come in and do it, Layman and I are both supporting the waiver as far as bringing it in. Again, it's a partial waiver, bringing it into a certain point and then go underground where it makes sense. But like through the common area and things like that, let's keep it overhead.
Are you coming in off Manchester Street?
I think the reality is the bigger building number one, would come from Zion View Road, like, one of those poles along, so that wouldn't go that long of a distance and then go underground. I think the server buildings 2 and 3, potentially coming from Manchester Street, so, come into building 2, that's a pretty good distance. I mean, building 3 is somewhat along the roadway there, but a lot of times with these facilities, that transformer is somewhere in the midpoint of the building, lots of times, like even in the truck work. So, I mean, you're talking a pretty good distance, coming from the street to get to building 2. So it's not like it's going, from all the way across the site, connecting those streets to one another. It's coming in to serve, the building. I think we even have anticipated pole locations, on here coming into the site. If you look at our utilities plan, I think we have some poles to show like how it's coming into the site and then ultimately go underground and go, into the building, report the building.
I think part of that also, to answer, is we didn't want to see additional poles along proposed streets and things along that line, which again, I don't think, I think that they're doing something that's a reasonable request. If this was something where it's new street, road frontage, et cetera, residential, then I'd say we want to be underground.
And we have precedent, we've waived that in the past for other.
Garrett property, I think we gave you a partial waiver.
Yeah.
Yep, and the Kinsley one, yep.
Okay.
Is it going to come in on the creek side or is it on the upper side?
Be on the western side of the creek, or the western northwest. You'd be on the development side of the creek.
Okay, so you're just following the creek up to them.
We do show on our utility plan, like the anticipated routing of the
See it. Yeah.
In fact, it's even between the buildings. So basically, it's between the buildings and the DHL building. It's not even like on the other side of that. It's between all the industrial buildings for the site.
What's the residual zone? Is that also industrial?
R1. I think it's R1. Yeah, I'm not sure what the bird is.
Yeah, you have it on the plans, I believe.
Low density. Yep.
And there's enough buffer in there along the creek and everything?
Yeah, we have a 100-foot setback requirement, from industrial to residential, and you have buffering requirements as well, which is why we have the screening and everything. We have the buffer itself shown, and then we have the screening, put it at an optimum location on the top of the site, you're actually able to screen something versus put it at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Plus, there's existing screen down there and a bunch of vegetation, so clearly we don't want to disturb anything down there. I think this is the best design that we can do in terms of screening.
Just give me a second. 80-some pages. Trying to find one. Yeah, I'm gonna go through 85 before I find the one.
What are you looking for, utility or?
No. Yeah, it's all on the top of the wall there. I know they have, I mean, down by the creek, I mean, it's wetlands and there's floodplains.
Gotcha.
So there's enough buffer. FEMA's in there touching, they have their stuff in there, so. I'm just saying, you know, when that gets developed, what
Oh, yeah.
are all the residential people gonna see looking across? And they have it buffered and.
Section number 2 is kind of the best, visual of that, if you're looking from across from your existing property, so you can kind of see that's the best visual of it.
Josh, I can't remember on the profiles, we did put the plan view.
We're doing it. We're showing them
On the profiles.
we didn't ask for a waiver.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I just thought, that's one that I kind of remembered.
You were right, our initial submission, we didn't have.
But we added them.
For the plan view, but we added the plan view.
Gotcha, okay.
It adds extra sheets to the set.
Yeah. You don't have to ask for the waiver.
You have them.
The waivers?
No, what he just said.
He added to plan, he didn't need the waiver request, he added to plan view on his revision.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I have the previous submission.
That's what I mean, I don't have it here, you have it. Is that what came
No,
in
it
this
should be
afternoon?
on, it should be on us.
Which,
What would that be on, Josh?
Profiles, the PR sheets.
oh, okay, gotcha.
They own it as well. Who owns the residential lots after this is done?
It'll remain with the current property owner.
Current property owner? Okay. I'm just thinking about it from the standpoint of if they don't like the view, that's kind of on them because they developed it.
Yeah, but but I mean, they got the buffer, they got the riparians and everything, you know. And I was thinking if there's anything more, but I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any individual concern of any one of the 7 waiver requests? Because if there wasn't any more discussion about them, and you have them all listed down, Barry, we can entertain a motion that requested waivers, we recommend approval. If there was something that was a little bit more touchy or somebody had a little bit more reservation about, we can take them one at a time.
And my questions have been answered, so I have no problem making a motion.
Well, I'm at Is there any other public comment? You're jumping out of your skin. You just can't wait to say something.
Happy Smith. I mean, the traffic, I'm sure there are solutions, they just cost.
Yeah.
So think about solutions, reverse engineer it to make it affordable or to, I don't know, the companies that are building like this pay for, access, some other route for trucks. I don't know. But it seems to me like there are solutions, but I'm sure they cost.
Yeah, and some of them, again, when you start dealing with some of what we can do as a municipality, the traffic engineer saying there's certain things we got to stay out of, and then it's a very real concern, and we're doing our best every time these plans come up. And sometimes some of these things, like we're picking the best of the worst. And I get what you're saying. And sometimes as I'm a lay person, we got a couple engineers and more than a few in this room. And it's a bigger challenge than you think it is, than I thought it was, having sat up here, and I've come from your standpoint. You can create some solutions, and then sometimes you find out, well, you can't do this, or there was problems with a way you're going to have trucks enter and you run into a wetland somewhere. Well, now that's protected and you can't do that. There's a million things that you end up taking into consideration that I never thought you'd need to. It's kind of a bugger.
And also, this is subject to PennDOT's approval as well, because PennDOT has their own rules, and that's a whole different machine.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about the township. Sometimes even if we wanted to do something, we don't have the jurisdiction. It's a PennDOT road, it's a state road, or just in general, a PennDOT jurisdiction.
I can tell you we try.
I hear that and I appreciate it.
Yep.
I wish we tried and it actually did something sometimes.
Yeah.
We're just as frustrated.
Well,
Yeah.
especially because you've seen it before.
Yeah.
You always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got.
Yeah. And that's what he was saying here at the end. It's like we talk about this every time and it doesn't seem like we can get any traction.
Thank you for your comment.
And thanks for showing up.
My first one.
Oh, well, good. Thank you for,
I do it.
well, that's good. There's people that have lived here 20 years and don't ever fill these seats. So it's important that you show up and at least hear what's going on. It's nice to see you care enough to show up.
Well, I saw the trucking distribution centers, so. I mean, that's an interesting vision. Like you said, are they really at capacity? And do you need more?
Yeah.
So I like that you're asking those questions when you're looking at those numbers. I don't know what it means, but they're not, you don't being utilized fully, but.
Yeah, we don't either. That's why we sit up here like, why do they? And they're not going to come in here and build something without knowing that this is where the market is. People are buying these things and then they're letting them have the bays unused, which is just kind of weird, but. You're welcome. Well, the first thing we ought to do is the waivers. Get them out of the way. I would entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend all the requested waivers as presented tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a motion for all 7.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed likewise? All right, so we got the waivers out of the way. Our esteemed recorder has all open comments from the Gordon L. Brown letter and York County Planning, correct?
There's some that were closed.
What's that?
There were some that were closed.
I'm sorry?
There were some that were closed, right? Is that what you said? They're
Oh,
all-
yeah, but she has we went over that like in
Oh.
real time and she has a good recording of all that.
Oh, so I don't,
Yeah, we don't really have to.
Well,
For now. Yes.
Just make sure if you do make a motion to recommend that you include the Grove Miller Engineering traffic review and the
Miller's.
NPL law firm comment letter. Very good, thank you.
Make a motion. That would recommend approval.
Okay. Let's say you're making a motion. Oh, okay, keep going. All right.
A motion.
So we have a motion to recommend approval of the plan as presented with outstanding items being taken care
So
of.
we have discussion after it's second or before? After, I'll second that.
Okay, any last minute discussion?
I would like to just, I don't know how we word it, but make a recommendation to the supervisors that they work with Andy and really try to work with the developer to find a self-imposed kind of regulatory situation where they.
For the trucking.
Yep.
Would you also want to add, the landscaping in front of the wall?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you have those down? All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Ayes have it. Yep. Last item on the agenda before adjournment is new business, and you're up here like old school, like old times.
Yes.
So you know all the stuff.
Kate is on short-term disability right now, so she'll be back. I'm just filling in. But new business would be, we will possibly have 25 Devco Drive next month. And then also at 5 p.m., it's going to be a joint meeting, but you'll do your business first as the Planning Commission. But after that, you'll have a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. Attorney Miller will be present, and myself. And it's going to be a special meeting regarding data center ordinance amendments. Mainly, Attorney Miller needs direction on a location because the original proposal that came to you guys didn't get approved as a result of everything that was said at the fire hall meeting, which was a public hearing. So this meeting is not a public hearing. This is merely for educational purposes and to hammer out a location, whether you make it a permitted use in industrial district or conditional use or an overlay district or
Are
whatever.
we leaning more towards conditional use?
To be honest, I've heard it flop so much that I have no idea where it's going to stand at this point. So I
Because I
think,
heard just as many voices for one or the other.
right. I mean, there's pros and cons, and Attorney Miller, I believe, is going to be prepared to explain all of that to everyone. It is going to be here at the Township Building. When we have to do a public hearing, we'll have it at a larger facility again because it'll be similar to what happened before at the fire hall. But in this case, it'll be until we're at capacity of 82 people in this room. We will shut the doors. Everyone else will have to watch it live stream. This isn't going to be one of those things where people are filing up to the microphone. However, people can make comments during your discussion. I think the primary purpose of this is for the boards to give Attorney Miller direction for these ordinances, because then he will pass it through to your planning commission like normal, like we would normally do, and to York County Planning Commission again. And then you'll give your comments and feedback. It'll go back to the Board of Supervisors who will authorize a public hearing, and then we'll advertise and all that good stuff, and then have the public hearing again. It's gonna be a lot longer than what you already saw. I mean, it was already several pages, now it's gonna be even more pages of a model ordinance, and yeah, it'll be fun to look at. So,
I started the yawn just now.
yeah.
But it is,
My brain
not that
hurts
it's
just thinking
a,
about it.
but it is important though.
So
Oh
the
my gosh,
16th
yeah.
is here
Yes, it's gonna be here at 5,
at 5 o'clock on the 16th.
and you'll start with your business, and then after you guys are done seeing And that's if
And
25
that's if we
comes.
have business.
Right, that's if you have business. If not, you'll go straight into, the special meeting.
I may not have no business. You just go right into the fun stuff. Fire, pitchforks, and
I can let the developer know, what's proposed to happen at that meeting to see if they even want to come, or maybe just wait till January. So I can do that.
I'm just curious, based on everything that's been going on and the whole issue with transparency, perception, does it make sense to do it here, or does it make sense just to go to the fire hall and so nobody can say they weren't able to get in?
The fire hall is not available.
Okay.
The school district takes 21 days to see if you are approved.
Wow.
And though we're over that, we're worried that we could potentially be denied because it's so tense. It's such a tense subject. And so we just are like, according to Attorney Miller, this is not one of those meetings where, we have to accommodate a large crowd. When we do the public hearing, we will. Besides, the amended ordinances are not for public review until it's advertised. Now, we can discuss it in public meetings, but it's not up for their review until it's advertised.
I just don't want to have people come back and complain the perception that, that we wouldn't let them come in to hear it.
I mean, I don't know how much more transparent we can be, to be honest, because we wrote a 20-page Q&A that I could probably guarantee most people didn't even look at, or maybe started looking at and didn't go through it.
3 people brought up something that was answered in the Q&A that they put out. People are demanding this, you give it to them, and then they're not doing anything with the transparency and information you're giving them anyway.
So the way I look at it is you can't please everyone, and I can't force these people to educate themselves with the documentation. We provided them with these streamed live meetings. I don't know how much more we can do for them. I mean, there was this one guy who was like, I want you to call me to let me know every single thing that happens. That's unreasonable. If I had to call every single person in this municipality to inform them, I'd never get my job done. In fact, I'd be working 24/7. So that makes no sense.
What they have to do.
They have to do some work themselves.
What they have to do is what she just did.
Correct.
Not at the last minute.
Correct.
11th hour where you have 500 people wanting to burn the place down, but to the boring stuff like you heard tonight, where you're the only one here, but attendance is important. You now know tonight, and you said you're relatively new, you now know tonight more about what might be going in and where than people that have lived here quite a while.
Well, I will confess, the sign you posted.
Yeah.
Got my attention, so.
Well, but it could have gotten a lot of people's attention, and it's just, again, it's wonderful that you came here. We like when the public shows up, but we sit and see empty seats all the time. And then when it really matters, almost like when it's almost too late, well, now everyone, so it's very important that you show up like you did. Not that we're going to see you at every meeting, but I mean, you took the time out of your day. And to your point, that's what people need to do. The last 10% of effort needs to come from them.
Yep.
And not just have everything spoon-fed. Make it, here's the plate of food.
Yep.
Here's the trough of water you got to drink.
I think it's almost more fun for people to complain about it than it is to actually be there sometimes.
Right.
So,
And not all the time, but I think there's an element of that, So I'm glad again that you came, and I think I love to see people come to these things. But is that the only new business we have?
Yes.
Fantastic. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Do I have a second? All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Aye.